Right. Hello, wealth makers. Great to be joined by Ronnie and John and Stephen this evening. And I've got quite a great discussion from Brendan Borchard and his great system and habits that he's shared with us about how to be highly effective. And what we've discovered already is that it's not some kind of characteristic that we have, but it's something that we actually develop. And it's not something we dip in and out of. It does require a bit of work. It does require a lot of attentiveness and being present. But if we can develop these kinds of systems, they're really life-changing. And the hopeful thing is anyone can do that. We just need to apply ourselves to that. So, in his chapter on clarity, he starts off with giving a story about a lady who's an incredible high performer. She's an admired leader. She's amazing. She's just one of those people who just seems to get it all right. So she's an admired leader. She really talks up other people. Like if she walks in the room, it's not like she's saying, "Hey, everybody, here I am." She kind of is saying, "Here you are. Hello, here you are." And if she pays attention to you, she just really genuinely cares. He describes her as having this indescribable grace. She's not only great at work, she's an amazing mother as well, very present with her children. Her husband loves her. And she's one of these kind of people who has this incredible level of productivity, but she always finds time for her friends. And obviously with a really above average income. The strange thing about the story is that when he is engaged to be her coach by her, she admits to these kinds of feelings. Can you believe it? She feels like she's in a mess. She feels like she's in a rut. She doesn't have any excitement or joy or confidence anymore. She's drowning inside, even though she looks like she's coping apparently on the outside. And she's lost. She just says, "I just don't know what I want anymore." And I guess, those kind of are typical feelings we have often if we're not feeling very clear about things. So these are some of the basics about clarity. When you have clarity, you know who you are, what you want, how to get it. You know how to make life meaningful and really fulfilling. So again, as we said before, it's not a characteristic. It's something we need to learn how to generate. And I like this description that Brendan Borchard gives of clarity. He says, clarity is the child of careful thought and mindful experimentation. So I'm going to repeat that. Clarity is the child of careful thought and mindful experimentation. So you might be asking, okay, so I would like that. I would like to have clarity in my life, but how do I generate that? So some of the things, so it's not like you suddenly walk outside and the piano of purpose falls on your head. It's something that you've actually got to carefully, considerately, conscientiously work towards. So some of the ways we can work towards generating clarity is ask questions. Ask a lot of questions. Be aware and reflective. One of the good things that really, really helps in gaining clarity, I don't know if any of you do this, is journaling. And especially if you journal first thing when you wake up in the morning, because it's kind of when your brain is still in that less conscious state, the sort of reasoning side that hasn't quite kicked in yet, and there's quite a good flow of thoughtful, aware energy. And if you just write and write and write, when you start, you might write a paragraph, but as you kind of get into it, you might write a couple of pages, and it's actually quite amazing as you begin to just journal and think what it is you're thinking, what it is you're feeling. It's amazing how certain themes and certain awarenesses begin to emerge. So journaling is a really great way of creating clarity. one of the things he suggests is try new things, get out of your comfort zone. And one of the things I found in my life, obviously being a psychotherapist myself, how I find clarity is to be in my own therapy. It's actually really great to have an hour set aside with somebody who's just there to help you find yourself, help you to know and value yourself, that kind of listening, attentive, caring, unconditional space where you can just explore. I found that a really, really helpful way of gaining clarity. So clarity, when we have clarity, it's linked to so much that's awfully important. It's linked to greater confidence, it's linked to assertiveness, it's linked to happiness. And actually the flip side of that, the lack of clarity, leads to a lot of negativism and a lot of narcissistic approaches to life. So, you know, when we don't really know who we are, we don't come with this energy and this fullness. We come with this kind of empty, hollow, confused space. And it's not a really nice space to be in. And, you know, when we're in that kind of space, we're kind of looking for things, people, events to fill the emptiness. So in that way, we become kind of like greedy, needy, instead of like outgoing, energetic, flowing, those kinds of things. So it's in a space where you have clarity, you kind of get to know your strengths and weaknesses. And one of the things he really encourages to get to know yourself is set yourself some challenging goals. Always when you set yourself in challenging goals, that increases your performance. And when you set yourself a challenging goal and you fail, or you don't quite reach what you're trying to aim for, that's okay. That's okay, because in failing, you get to know what you're not, which definitely helps you know what you are. Okay, so the other kind of things that clarity brings about is quite a lot of productivity, quite a lot of profitability, a lot of satisfaction. Another thing he suggests in terms of gaining clarity is set yourself a deadline. And that makes sense, because if you're kind of wafting around, you're not really going to hit against the deadlines, the boundaries that are going to define what you are. So for example, say you set yourself a goal as to how many people you're going to share your company with, or your product with, or something that you really value, and you don't really achieve that by the end of the day, by the end of the week, whatever your goal is that you set, then you have to ask yourself other kinds of questions like, well, why didn't I? What got in the way? Was I nervous? Was I afraid of rejection? Did I get too easily distracted from what it is? Am I just scared of succeeding? Am I scared of failing? Am I putting too much energy in some other direction? So all of those kind of questions you can ask when you actually start to set yourself a deadline. And then create a plan, because it's no use having clarity about where you want to get to if you don't make a plan about how you're going to get there. So make a plan. And again, this is not like having things set in concrete, because your plan might change. Your plan might need to expand. It might need to become more realistic. But setting a plan definitely helps you begin to define and have more clarity about, well, is this plan actually what I want to be doing? Or can I really work at this pace? Or are my results showing me that actually I could work a little bit harder? So set yourself a plan. And when you have a clear plan, it also gives you motivation and willpower. As I've said before, help you understand why are you getting distracted. And when you have a plan, what's really good is that the steps ahead are quite clear. And when you see the steps ahead of you, it's really hard to ignore them. So I did say that today was also going to be a little bit of contribution and a little bit of doing a little bit of your own work, because as I said in kind of suggesting what the format would be tonight, it's no use just having a whole lot of knowledge and coming in and joining in on this webinar and not sort of putting it into action. So I'm just going to have to get the light a little bit so I can see this. Excuse me a minute. Okay, so if you've got pens and paper, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. And just use it as a time to do a little bit of reflecting. So the first question I'm going to ask, which things are you absolutely clear about that help you perform better than your peers? Where are the areas that you actually do have clarity right now? Yeah, I think let's just do this reflecting on our own. Just get heads down with pens and paper. Give you a couple of minutes to think about that. Okay, the second question is, what do you focus on to stay clear about what matters most? If you have something that you've set yourself, do you write it down? Do you have an Excel spreadsheet? Do you have an accountability partner? What do you focus on to stay clear about what matters most to you? And maybe as part of that question, what does matter most to you? What's really important to you? And then maybe on the flip side of that, what aren't you clear about? And how does that affect your performance? What are you still trying to work out for yourself in your life? What still feels like a bit of a muddled cloud? Okay, and when you're feeling like that, what do you do when you're feeling uncertain or undirected? If you're feeling uncertain or undirected, how do you know you're feeling like that? Do you kind of get anxious? Do you get frustrated? Do you get restless? Do you feel like it's kind of floating? Like you've wasted the whole day and not achieved anything? What are the feelings that you have when you're in that kind of space? Okay, and then another question. If you were doing an interview or you were being a mentor to somebody and you had to explain to them what makes you successful, what would you say? What are your strengths? Which areas are you succeeding in? Okay, and then the final question, what else do you know about yourself beyond your values and strengths and plans that makes you successful? Do you have a special ability to discern things? Are you one of those people who just knows how to put things together? Are you very organized? Okay, and now I'm going to try something. I'm going to try and unmute you all. See if I can do that. Unmute all. Okay, there you go. Okay, looks like some people are still muted. Hang on, let me just go back here. Maybe it's going to work better if I... yeah, just this one. Okay. All right. So now that you're all unmuted, I'm going to go back to the first question now that you've had a chance to write some things down. What things are you absolutely clear about that help you perform better than your peers? Anybody want to volunteer anything?
All right, I'll go.
Thanks, Anne. I think it's Anne. I recognize that voice.
It is Anne. I think that where I perform more successfully is that I try to keep things simple if I'm trying to explain something. For example, one of my strong areas in life is IT and understanding IT and technology generally. And so when I'm explaining something to someone, I try and bring it down to very sort of grassroots level.
Okay.
So that it's not high flying or big technology words. And I like to do background research. So for example, in the cryptocurrency things, it's a weakness and a strength is to try and find out as much as I possibly can about that information so that I have clarity in explaining it.
Okay, so you're very well informed within yourself because of the research that you do, but the way that you communicate it to other people, you keep it simple and very understandable.
Absolutely. So I sort of had this headspace of, and it's not an insult, but it's like, how would you talk to a child or a youngster, teaching them something? But it's not done with a tone of being derogatory. It's just, let's bring it back to basic, simple language.
Okay, I think that's extremely helpful, especially in the cryptocurrency world, which is gobbledygook for most of us, or in the beginning anyway. I know my son's like that. He's a great teacher. He kind of says things or teaches you things. It sounds like you do this as well in a very clear and simple way without making you feel stupid. I think that's a huge skill to be able to do that. And anybody else? Anybody have some really great strengths that really help you to perform well?
Steve here.
Hi, Steve.
I can only think of one thing at the moment, and that is not in context of performing better than my peers, but just the strength, and that is improving on existing systems.
Okay. Okay.
And then also seeing where I see a lack, I basically make a suggestion and then try and suggest something positive.
Okay. I think that's a real gift as well. It's sometimes quite difficult to not just sort of focus on the detail, but also how things hang together. And then also to be able to make suggestions about how things integrate. I think that's also a really amazing strength. Anybody else have any great strengths they want to
Mandy.
enlighten us with?
Hi, Mandy. It's John here.
Hi, John.
Hi. I think a good strength to have is to have a good listening skill. So when you're looking at trying to find solutions for people, listen to what their problems are and actually hear what they've got to say. And by you listening to people, you understand, you get the solution of what you need to help them with, and it gives them confidence in themselves, because you're not telling them what to do, you're listening to what the problem is, and then you're finding a solution to that.
Yeah, and I think that's a brilliant skill, especially in our industry where it's about building relationships and meeting people's needs. I mean, you have no idea what their need is unless you really listen to them. So
Yeah.
that's a brilliant skill. Thanks, John.
Okay.
Anybody else bursting to tell us about some amazing strength that they have? Okay, I think some of my strengths are having a vision and clarity. I think I do have that. I think I've also been blessed to have had great mentors who've helped me kind of know myself a little bit better. Just trying to think. I think caring about other people, and really wanting to not only succeed myself, but also really help other people succeed. Okay, anybody else got anything they'd like to contribute before we move on to the next question? Okay, let's move on. What do you focus on to stay clear about what matters most? How do you kind of set your priorities and stay focused on those? Anybody got any great ideas about how to do that?
I can suggest something quickly. I can share from an experience of working at an internet cafe. I had to learn, let's say, the finer art of people skills. So I had certain areas of development, and then I just basically focused on growing in those areas and following practical steps to improve in the way I relate to colleagues, and also conflict resolution and negotiation, things that I never had before. So that's where I grew.
Okay, so you kind of identified areas of where you needed to grow, and
Yeah,
then
development.
you found. How did you find how to do that? Did you kind of do research? Did you look at other people who were really good at it? What did you?
Well, if I gave you the answer, I don't know if you'll understand it.
Okay, I'll give it a go.
I followed God's spirit, my inner voice,
Okay.
that shared with me steps. And on top of that, I've been having years and years of reading the Bible. So I've got a big, memory of reading. And so I also am very acutely aware of thoughts that come to me, and in the area of social skills and soft skills, I basically followed those thoughts and steps that made sense in the area of development that I need to grow. And yes, I basically grew in that area from following those steps.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I read the Bible. I think it's amazingly profound book in terms of guidelines for life and guidelines for relating and surviving and how to live an abundant and a meaningful life. So definitely understand that, and definitely know listening to your own inner reality is something we often neglect, but it really does reveal a lot of truth to us. Yeah, no, fully understand. Great. think maybe on a more practical level, sometimes one of the things I wasn't very good at, so I also, like Steve, had to work at things that you're not so good at, is tracking. Because for me, I'm quite spontaneous and I love to kind of not be tied down too much, like my freedom. So having to track and write down what I did, when I did it, what was coming next, was really felt very claustrophobic. But I must say, when I did do it, it definitely gave me clarity as to be more consistent. Definitely helped me be more consistent. Anybody else got some great strategies in terms of staying focused?
Well, I have something, but it's not for business. It was for a personal challenge. And that was when I decided to run my first marathon. I set a goal for myself. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew the time I wanted to do it in. And I can be very disciplined.
Okay.
Within 4 months, I ran my first ever marathon and did it within 4 hours. So it gave me confidence, and I'm very proud of myself.
That's amazing. Well done. Sure. So having a plan and a strategy and having those very clear goals is what kept you moving towards achieving a great success in the goal you'd set.
And being very self-disciplined when there's something that I really want.
Okay. So you needed to want it really hard, and then you were disciplined about making sure no matter how you were feeling, you were going to do whatever it took to get there.
That's correct.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next question. What aren't you clear about, and how does that affect your performance? That's a harder one for people to be vulnerable about. Anybody brave enough to suggest anything they're not clear about?
Sure, I'm happy to go first.
Okay. Thanks, Ray.
I'm really going through a transition in life because I've quit my profession as a court reporter, and I'm delving into a field that's completely unknown to me. So I feel like I have an absolute lack of clarity, and it's hard to get myself focused and disciplined to do the actions that I need to do. A lot of times I feel like I don't know what I don't know, so I don't know how to ask the questions to get to where I want to be.
What does it feel like to be in that space?
Very uncomfortable. So I'm doing things, working with a coach, trying things differently most days to try and get myself out of this funk and move forward.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that, and also thanks for sharing some suggestions as to how you're moving forward from that space. Because I think I'm like that too. I don't like feeling insecure or uncertain. It's not a nice space to be in. But so you have a coach, you're doing a lot of reflecting, you're trying to ask the right questions, find the right answers.
Find the clarity.
Find the clarity. Okay. Anybody else got any suggestions what you can do if you're not feeling that clear about things?
I was going to go in much the same as Verona and say that I think my biggest problem with performance is that not in a job relationship type thing, but in my own personal life, or if I'm running my own business as in Lifestyle Galaxy. But I find that I lack the discipline and the follow through. I find it very easy to procrastinate and say, oh, I'll deal with it another day, or it's not so important today, or that kind of approach. And I like the idea that you explored earlier of the traffic, because that really does help with getting that clarity and being able to say, okay, these are the deadlines and I'm committing to follow them. and this is what I've done and I haven't done.
Okay.
I really couldn't hear any of that.
I think Anne was saying some of the things that I kind of remember from Anne saying, some of them were really insightful, that when you're in that space of being unsure and clear, it kind of spirals into things like procrastination, into feeling lethargic, into being very unmotivated, and just unmotivated, I guess, quite a big. And Anne was saying she felt tracking is quite a helpful thing, and setting specific goals and just trying to go for them. Did I leave anything else, Anne?
No.
Okay. Did you hear me, Ronnie?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no. I also found Anne quite quiet, but I think maybe it's all the way from them. Okay, I like this question, and I hope to hear from a few more people. If you had to explain to someone you were mentoring what it is that makes you successful, what would you say? Again, a nice focus on your strengths. Anybody got anything to add on that one?
Hi, this is John here.
Hi, John.
Okay, I think to be successful, you have to put that person's, if you can say, actions first. So you have to show them that you're there to support them 100% and not worry about your success, but show them that you're dedicated in their well-being and them moving to the position that they need to get into, and guiding them.
Okay.
So mentoring them in to build their strengths and show them how they're going to get there.
Okay, so really helping them to be empowered and getting excited about getting them to where they want to get to. Sound like you're a real Zig Ziglar fan. What did he say? If you want to succeed, you got to help enough other people succeed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else got some great strengths?
I think I'm very empathetic. So with struggling in starting up my own business, I think I can have the empathy to help other people who possibly are in the same situation, and then I can talk them through what I've been through, and once I get to success, it'll become part of my story. But I'm very empathetic to other people's struggles and situations, and perhaps I can draw on my past experience as a court reporter working within many developing nations that have come out of brutal civil wars.
Okay, so very much using your own experiences and really being able to empathize with somebody in the same situation. And I think some of those strengths, yours and John's strengths, actually combine quite nicely together. Who in this group really likes people? I think that's my strength.
But introvert.
John raised his hand. Okay.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I think most of us sitting around about a 5.
Okay. I think I really like people. I think.
And you're a 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Maybe a 9.
When I get, I think when you get more clear and okay with yourself, so you're not so much worried about your own performance. I think, especially in our kind of network marketing process, you meet some of the most amazing people. I feel you meet some of the most amazing people you wouldn't have otherwise. But who would mentor people? Who would mentor the people that come into their sphere of influence in other ways, like other skills, like technological skills, like administration skills? We talked a lot about people skills, Does anybody
No,
have?
I've learned that. Yeah, I've learned that in my time at the internet cafe. That's when I shared with you earlier. I've learned that. Let's say, if you can call it a skill, I've learned that to mentor others, and so I have some success in that.
And I think it's quite cool that we're focusing on mentoring others, because especially in our industry, it's about duplication. So if you're not helping others and empowering others and helping them to have amazing leadership skills, business skills, business building skills, and you're trying to just go it on your own, it doesn't really work so well in our industry. It's very much a team building, helping each other up, teaching each other, learning from each other kind of experience.
I think I'll come in on that. And I think,
Okay.
am I speaking loud enough now?
Yes, that sounds a bit clearer. Can you hear Ronnie?
It's still pretty soft on my side.
Okay,
Shout,
I'll shout. So I think what I try to do is that I share what it is that I can help them with.
Okay.
I don't necessarily perhaps give everybody all the information, because I think sometimes you get that overload.
Sure.
But I think that it's important to try and isolate, but carefully isolate, and give enough information that it's not in overload, but it's not withholding information.
Okay.
So in that mentoring process, you provide them with the tools and the support that's necessary. But I know I did a TEFL course, teaching English as a foreign language, that you don't necessarily try and tell everybody everything there is to know about how to learn English. You tone it down so that it's comprehensible. And I think that so through the mentoring stages, you take people through gradually, and as they develop, you can then help them grow more.
Okay. I think I better come and learn from you, Anne. I think that's an amazing skill. I think it's awesome to just have the right kind of discernment as to what kind of information people need when, and not kind of give them the whole barload. But I think it's also really valuable to help people learn to help themselves, to know how to get information or how to grow that little bit more from their own innovation, that kind of thing. So that was really a great thing to mention. Thanks. Okay, well, thanks very much, everybody, for your participation and your sharing. I'm just going to end off with a little bit of a little bit more that's encouraging, just that, or a little bit more that gives us clarity about how to think about clarity. Is that high achievers are often more focused on the future. So they consistently think about who they want to be and how to become that. They often list a lot of projects that they'd like to work towards and dreams. And a lot of what we've talked about now, Brendan Borchardt also agrees, says that's what he's found with high achievers, is they obsess not only about getting what they want, but in helping others do the same. And they also talk about how they feel. And I think a lot of you have done that tonight. Talk about how you feel in achieving those endeavors, and how you're going to feel when you achieve those success, and also about what kind of feelings you don't want to have by not getting to where you want to get to. Like, you don't want to lose enthusiasm. You do want to be growing and satisfied. So just to leave that with you, try and be in kind of thinking about the week ahead, thinking about where you want to get to and who you want to be, rather than focusing on things like, oh no, I really failed, I really messed up, I could have done this better or that better. Focus on where you really want to get to and who you really want to be. So we only really touched the tip of the iceberg on clarity today. Thanks again for all the contributions, and we'll carry on with this theme of clarity next week. So I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their evening, and you can all say bye to each other. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Mandy.
Pleasure. Hi, Adam. Hi, Adam.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.